good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He is Griffin. Coming up today, check in with the great Scotty McGregor. Spent some time down in Sarasota working as a guest instructor at Orioles Spring Training. Get a feel for what he saw. All these new pitches that Cole Irvin told us about yesterday, and apparently a new pitch that Corbin Burns has added. Talk about that. Although, I don't know. If I was Corbin Burns, I'd probably just keep doing what I was doing. I can tell you what. You prove that you can hit it, and then I'll consider tinkering. Also coming up this morning, it is Tuesday, so we'll catch up with Patrick Stevens. I don't know what we talked to Patrick about. It ain't great. We can talk about Maryland.
Name baseball players with him.
We might as well just do that. We'll talk some lacrosse, obviously. Loyola Towson coming up later on tonight. Maryland stayed unbeaten, taking care of Princeton. Getting to the point where you have to ask some questions about Navy. Like, I get that it was Penn State that they played on Saturday, but that's back-to-back blowout losses that they have suffered. So I don't know about that. I don't know. Hopkins looks good. They beat Carolina. We'll talk some lacrosse. That's what we'll do. What are we gonna do? Talk basketball about what?
Talk about that great cover by Morgan State last night.
Oh, yeah? They got a nice cover?
Oh, yeah.
Were you on that?
Oh, yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. Superbook.com. Download the Superbook app. Use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up, and you can be like Griffin Bass and be a big winner on Morgan State last night. Statement cover is what they call those.
Yeah.
Statement. That's a cover that matters. They think about that down the road. You got any plays for tonight? Anything you're on
tonight
so far?
I haven't looked at the card.
No, I haven't
too
looked at the card,
closely.
huh?
Yeah, tonight I was.
Unfortunately,
I did overhear Jeremy Kahn likes Mississippi State.
Okay. So. Unfortunately, they don't do lacrosse at Superbook, which is a bummer because my guy Hutton Jackson from the Action Network, he's been hot this year. Been hot. I'm like, man, I gotta. And then I go to the Superbook, and I'm like, oh, come on, can we get on lacrosse? Can we work on that? That's what it is. Trying to think of anything else that's going on tonight. Well, I mean, is the Orioles lineup for today? Let's see. Orioles. Why can we not bet the Orioles? What's happening there?
It's because they know they're a weapon in the spring.
No, they lost
training.
yesterday. They split. They split their
they
two
won
games.
One of them.
Yeah, they went 1-1 yesterday, so they're no longer unbeaten down in Sarasota.
Broke even more or less, you know.
I guess
bet
that's
on both
true.
of them.
Well, I don't know what the lines were, so I don't know.
Well, if you bet,
they're probably 1.5. That's what they tend to be. Well, certainly they were 1.5. I don't know what to say here. Boy, what a stunner last night for the U.S. women, by the way.
Yeah.
They lose 2-0, 2-0 to Mexico.
As we speak, Gunnar Henderson is taking batting practice.
Hell
right
yeah,
now.
he is. As my friend Eric Ardita would say, it's over for you, hoes.
We say that?
I don't know. I have no idea. But it's the internet. What are they going to do? Kick us off? I've seen some other stuff on the internet, Griffin.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
We're going to be all right. I don't know what I'm doing here. But yeah, that was brutal. Brutal last night. I mean, it doesn't really matter because they were already into the knockout round, but losing to Mexico in women's soccer, it's like now all of a sudden the men are dominant against Mexico, so like, sorry, you can't have it all. You know who I blame? That Rapinoe. All she cares about is her political belief. She's not paying. I don't think she did a thing during the course of the match last night. I don't think she made one single play because all she's doing is thinking about woke. All right? So that's the problem with the U.S. women is Megan Rapinoe didn't make a single play that was helpful in last night's match because all she's doing is trying to force her woke agenda down everyone's throats.
I didn't realize that's what we were doing today.
I'm sorry? Sorry, did you say Megan Rapinoe's not on the team?
Yeah, I didn't think she. Just wanted to double check. Just
really way to be on top of that bit.
Yeah,
way
yeah.
to be on top of that one. That's why we go through so many rehearsals before the show.
Is that why they lost?
Is to make sure that we nail down when we come on air.
Because Rapinoe's not on the squad, that's why they lost.
Well, they lost with her on the squad during the World Cup, so I'm not really sure that it makes a difference. Just
either way, it's her fault. That's what we.
Just a rough time. In fairness, I was finishing. Oh, by the way, way to bail on the team after 1 week. What's going on over there? I thought you were a team player. You didn't show up for trivia.
I thought you had a full roster.
It doesn't mean that you're not allowed.
Oh,
It doesn't
okay.
mean that like we're gonna kick you out. This isn't like you can come.
Did you need me?
We didn't. We won. We were good.
You're welcome.
What
Gave
were
you good vibes.
Is that what it was by
Yeah.
not showing up? You think?
Well,
that
I
was
set up. I said it. I started. I started this
okay.
winning streak.
The win streak.
You guys won again. Wow.
So
Was it? What were the questions like? Like last week, I felt like they were
what?
ridiculous questions.
There's some. I did not know. Like once my buddy Dan got us there, it made all the sense. Where the final question was like, what country is the 133rd largest country in the world? But when you include all of its territories, municipalities, then it becomes the 12th largest country in the world. Yeah. And it's a ball buster at first. You're like, then once he said it, I was like, oh, yeah, of course.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna throw one out.
Mm-hmm.
The Philippines?
No, not the Philippines. So, like, the first thing that comes to mind is the UK, because, like, the UK used to
okay.
own everything, right?
Right.
Like, it used to be that, like, everything was British, but that's not the case any longer. Like, I'm pretty sure Britain used to own, like, Canada. You know what I mean? Like, not the case any longer. So,
Or was that France? I don't know. Yeah.
France definitely had a time where they owned a lot of things. This one, in order to make such a significant difference, it has to be a giant
Like
chunk, a huge place.
Right, and I
They
don't know
own.
what has territories in.
I had not even considered it. He nailed it. Greenland. So Denmark
Oh, okay.
was the answer
Interesting.
because they own Greenland. And yes, we got that and we won for the evening. Although I think
Well
a lot
done.
of people got it. So like luckily we were in the league going in. The only sports questions
Man,
last
you guys are
night.
just hammering everybody.
Yeah, we've had a good run. We did well on one of the rounds.
Were you up
one
at
of the,
halftime
one of
again,
the
too?
picture rounds? No, we were trailing at
Oh,
halftime.
Okay.
We were trailing at halftime, but the team that was leading at halftime fell apart in the second. We thought we fell apart in the second half. Turns out the second half was bit ball busting. One of the picture round was pictures of highways in the state of Maryland, and they would just show you like a picture of an exit.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was tough, man. We were the only ones that went 4 for 5. Everybody
Wow.
else went
Which
no
one
better
did you
than 3.
miss?
US 4. I don't even know where that is. I gotta be honest with
go.
you.
Derrick
No
County
idea.
probably or
I
something?
thought it was
don't know.
495. I was way off. Way off. Knew it had a 4 though. Had that going for me. The only sports questions, there were 2 actually. There were 2 good ones. Name the first ever black coach in the NBA and the first ever black manager in Major League Baseball. Hint, both were player managers when they started, or player coaches, and both are in their respective sports Hall of Fames.
I don't think I know basketball.
Well, that one is the one. You know what's really funny? I was super confident about basketball.
Really?
I was not as confident about
Is
the baseball answer.
Baseball. Did it take that long? Was it Frank Robinson?
It was Frank
Okay.
Robinson. I was confused as whether it was Frank Robinson or Larry Doby because I couldn't remember when Frank Robinson. Like I was struggling. We have a buddy on our team, nicest guy in the world, but you got to know him. His name is Brad. He's like just kept yelling, "I think it's Hank Aaron." I'm like, shut up! You're helping nothing. Guy.
No, he was confusing. I understand Brad's game.
It's
confusing
Frank
other
Robinson
teams.
was 75. Larry Doby was 78. So.
They know that you are the sports guy, like all the other teams do. So they like just keep an eye on your table.
I don't know if that's the case or not.
So
the
Brad was like, "Oh, Hank Aaron,
to
yeah."
throw it off, right? The basketball one,
I
Hall of Famer,
I don't know.
was a player coach.
Player coach. Do I get years?
No, you didn't get years at trivia last night.
I got- I got-
Suddenly here.
I got nothing. I don't know who a player coach. Like Jason Kidd?
I don't think Jason Kidd was Jason Kidd a player coach?
No, I guess he wasn't a player coach. But I feel like he went to coaching immediately
Immediately
following,
after he retired,
Yeah.
yes. But I don't think he was a player coach.
which was bizarre to me as a kid.
Who was the last player? I don't know who the last player coach was. He was the last
Man.
player coach in the NBA. Dave Cowens was the last player coach in the NBA.
I don't even have a guess. George Gervin?
George Gervin. I don't know if George Gervin was ever a coach. I have no idea.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you. The great Bill Russell.
Bill Russell was a
Bill
player
Russell
coach.
was a player coach.
How long did he coach?
I think he kept coaching after he retired for a little while, if I remember correctly. George Gervin was never a coach. He was an assistant coach, but never a head coach.
I thought they were asking the first assistant player. Yeah.
Bill Russell, come on, as a coach. Yeah, his player coach tenure ran from 66 to 69. And then after his retirement, he ended up coaching both the Sonics and the Kings later after he coached the Celtics as a player. So that one was the one that was obvious to me. For some reason, Frank Robinson, I remembered Larry Doby. I guess Larry Doby wasn't a player coach or player manager when he was managing. He was just a manager. So thankfully, I got it right. I put down Frank Robinson. We were good.
Good job.
And then the other one, this is a ball buster. There's a 9-letter word that is the arena in which indoor cycling events occur. The name of the facility where you would host an indoor cycling event.
Peloton Park.
No, that's first of all not 9 letters.
Yeah, not 9 letters.
I got it, but at first
how?
Because you hear it at the Olympics.
The arena where like people on
the
stationary
venue,
people on
whatever you wanna
stationary
call it.
bikes, or it's an indoor
No,
track.
it's where indoor cycling track.
I don't know if I've ever heard of this.
Velodrome.
Velodrome.
Velodrome. Velodrome. Velodrome. It's not the Velodrome because the Velodrome could be anywhere. It could be the Phoenix Velodrome or the Paris Velodrome. You have a velodrome. That's what you call it when you have an indoor cycling track. And I spelled it wrong at first. I spelled it like Velidrome, and I was like, no, velocity, you idiot. Velodr.
Velocodrome.
No, just velodrome.
Well, that's how I remember it. The Velocodrome.
Velocodrome. Velodrome
Like
was the answer.
Velociraptor.
So those are the sports questions of trivia last night. That one was tough. That one was
question.
tough. Well, I mean,
Did anyone else get it?
I think so. Yeah,
Wow.
it's like a common thing. It is. I know you don't like that.
It's not
but it
common
is.
if I've never heard of it.
No, that's not the case.
It only matters if I know
after
what it
you're
is.
seeing your performance. That means nothing is common. Literally nothing at all. All right, so this morning, John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta are both going to meet with the media out in Indianapolis at the Combine. Griffin, do you want to do this exercise? You want to give me? I'll pretend to be Eric DeCosta, and you give me some questions that you think are
we
relevant.
tagging Justin Madubuike?
We're going to explore our options with that. Justin's a heck of a player, and we really like Justin, and you never want to let good players go. So we're gonna, we're not gonna commit to anything just yet. We're gonna continue. We've had really good conversations, productive conversations. We really like Justin. I mean, great story. Obviously, a guy that came in, wasn't a first-round pick, and we believed him all along, and we think Justin's going to be a really good football player for a long time. So we're gonna keep those conversations going, and we'll see how that plays out.
Gotcha. How about Patrick Queen? Is there any chance that he comes back?
We really like. I mean, Patrick Queen was a first-round pick. Obviously, we really like Patrick Queen. So, Patrick might have some options there, and we'd love to have Patrick back. If it works out, what we always say: right player, right price. We're gonna have to continue that process and see how that goes.
To give yourself any more cap flexibility, any players that are still
we're
exploring. Ricard, for example.
We're exploring. We're having some conversations, and it's difficult when you've got a salary cap in a sport. And obviously, we got good news: the salary cap going up last week, and so. We're seeing how we can use that to our advantage, but we're always looking at different areas and guys that we might be able to, create some cap space, but we want to keep good players around.
Why do you hate Gus Edwards?
We love Gus Edwards.
Why do you get 3 carries?
We love Gus Edwards. Well,
the AFC Championship.
You'd have to talk to.
Because he didn't have pedigree.
Yeah, you have to talk to somebody else about that.
You're looking for running backs with pedigree.
We love Gus Edwards, and we would like to have gotten something done. We were talking to him ahead of that deadline last week, and that doesn't mean that he won't end up being back with the Ravens. We like Gus Edwards a lot.
J.K. Dobbins.
We like J.K. Obviously, he's been through a lot.
Is anyone you don't like?
You just know how this is going to go. Keep going. Throw some more at me. I'm
Ronnie
hot.
Stanley.
Let me consider some outside
yeah.
things. Like, throw anything at me.
So Derrick Henry has been in the news.
Derrick Henry's a great player.
Is he?
Derrick Henry's a really great player. I'm not really sure if we're allowed to talk about outside free agents right now. I have no idea what the timing is. I guess they didn't tag him, so maybe he's. But the new year hasn't started. I'm not really sure how much we're allowed to say just yet. But we love Derrick Henry, and we're always willing to consider. We'll take a look at anybody that we think can help the team.
Is there a position that you're going to be focusing on more this week?
Geez, I don't know. We'll be looking at the offensive linemen, and then we'll be looking at the defensive linemen, and we'll look at the wide receivers and the tight ends. We always like looking at the tight ends, and it's a good running back class. It's a good running back class,
God.
and
Don't say that.
The cornerback class.
Okay.
It's a we like looking at the cornerbacks, and then obviously the linebackers. We'll probably look at the linebackers, and I don't know that we'll draft a quarterback, but you never know during the course of the draft. You might draft a quarterback at some point. We like Malik Cunningham, brought him in, so we'll see how all that plays out.
Not bringing Tyler Huntley back.
We like Tyler Huntley.
You do.
We like Tyler. I mean, what a story. Tyler Huntley made a Pro Bowl as a Baltimore Raven, and
Ravens legend.
We really like Tyler Huntley, and we'll see how all that goes and what the market looks like for Tyler Huntley, and. We're always open to bringing good players and having good players on our team.
Any conversations with Ronnie Stanley about restructuring or potentially a post-June 1?
I mean, Ronnie's been through a lot, and Ronnie's a Raven. Ronnie's a Raven. He's
Ronnie the Raven.
He's what we're all about. And he's been through a lot injury-wise the last couple of years. And
do you like Ronnie?
But we like Ronnie.
You do, okay.
When he's out there, he's still a heck of a player, right? That's a Pro Bowl caliber player that you're talking about. So, we'll see. We've had some conversations with Ronnie about where he is, and we'll have to let you know about that when something's there.
All right. I feel like you've covered everything.
That's how this is gonna go. Okay. Like the likelihood of us getting any actual information would come down to whether or not they literally have something to report at the moment. Short of, 5 minutes before Eric DaCosta goes to the dais, they happen to,
tag Madubuike?
Yeah, or redo somebody's deal or something. Short of that, you're not getting...
Eric, I really like Arthur Millette. Will you bring him back?
Yeah, we like Arthur Millette.
You do?
We
okay,
really...
good. That's all I wanted to hear.
Arthur Millette's a Raven. That's the other thing, too, they love saying. They love saying that about guys. I should have said that more.
And then 2 weeks later,
Arthur,
not a Raven.
Arthur's a Raven. That play like a Raven thing, Arthur plays like a Raven. It's the type of nonsense that I would say not, because these are always awkward because they're not going to tell you what they're doing. In some cases, because they don't know. In other cases, just because they would rather it be a secret. And it's frustrating for us because this is what we do. And every now and then there is something that's informative. Like the questions that are why questions are better questions to ask in these settings because you're not going to get tangible information. So asking
why, I don't know. Why didn't you extend Madubuike yet? That's not a
that's not really
question.
because that's still it's just it's another way of asking an informative question. It's more like why? Yeah, who are these coaches they hired? Why was Dennis Johnson the right fit for? Was he inside linebacker? What's Dennis Johnson? I don't remember what he's hired to do. I don't remember anything. Probably the nicest guy in the world, and maybe he'll be a hell of a football coach. I don't remember what he's here to do. I'm sorry. I can't stay on top of. I don't know if you've heard. I'm playing baseball with my sons now. I threw my back out hitting grounders for 2 hours the other day.
Happened?
Dude, I was so sore yesterday. Like an idiot, I did this for hours between throwing batting practice and hitting grounders to my sons. And then I came back and got on the bike afterwards. And I'm realizing now that was too much. I'm 40. I got to keep that in perspective. And yesterday I was so sore that when I would stand up, it was like hunched over. I couldn't stand up correctly. Did you find out what? I mean, are you serious? You can't figure out what Dennis Johnson's job is with the Ravens?
I'm trying to find. I just want to find a list of all of the jobs.
He was hired to be. Here's the Ravens announced 4 coaching hires for the 2024 staff. Oh, maybe it's the internet. Maybe that's the problem. All right. They hired Dennis Johnson to be defensive line coach. Travell Wharton is the assistant offensive line coach. Doug Mallory is defensive backs coach. Mark DeLeon is the inside linebackers coach. Those are the coaches they hired. So, like, trying to get a thoughtful answer about, like, so that you have to ask a question that's not just what do you think about this player. You're going to have to find other ways if you want to try to get a thoughtful answer or an answer of some sort of value. Otherwise, you're just going to get more of the same. We like everybody. We'll see how it goes. We have decisions to make. That's all they're going to tell you. In a weird way, I would find the Combine to be almost the best time to talk to John Harbaugh because there was no opponent, right? Like when there's no opponent on the schedule, he tends to be more willing to discuss things. He and I, one year when I was at the Combine, he and I ended up doing like 5. I don't remember if it was Ray's final season or if it was going into 2011. I don't remember which one it was, but there was a lot of talk about whether or not Ray Lewis could still be a 3-down linebacker at that point in his career, and I gave it to him. He danced around it, and he just gave me we like Ray, we like
He's a Raven.
Ray. He gave me the same. This is one of the greatest players of all. Like he gave me that whole thing, and I don't know why that day I was just like, John, you're dancing, and like you and I, we're not good dancers. Although I don't know, we see that video from. Maybe I was wrong. You and I, we're not good dancers. So let's maybe not dance. Like I just kind of didn't. I wasn't feeling it that day. I wasn't willing to put up with it that particular day. And he kind of giggled for a second. Then he just answered the question. He was like, "Yeah, I still think Ray's a 3-down linebacker. I still think we're okay having him on the field for all 3 downs." And I was like, "Okay, that was the answer that I was looking for." I don't know why, but like for some reason in the off season, I felt that John was more, and I remember telling him this once. I was like, I like talking to you here because there's no opponent. And like it always felt like John in those moments was thinking like, what are the Bengals hearing when I answer a question? And before there's a schedule, there's no opponent, so there's no one for him to think about. What are they hearing in those moments? So I always like talking to John at the Combine, but I feel like that probably has largely gone away too. Like maybe we'll see. We'll see if he has something. I don't remember who's up first. I think one of them is going to speak in like 10 minutes. I don't remember who's speaking when today. One of them I think is at 10:30. The other one's around 11.
Here we go. The cost of 10:30. Harbaugh 11:15.
Yeah. So if there's any information
the
to
cost
be,
is going to go 45 minutes.
No, they don't. It's not. The way the Combine works is there's like a room that has like 4 or 5 podiums, and like every 20 to 30 minutes someone else goes up to the podium.
Just another random coach GM.
So during the course of whatever many days it is, there's 32 teams, and every team is supposed to make their head coach and general manager available. It used to be it only had to be one, but now it's supposed to be all 32 to try to entice all of the media to try to be there, like all the national reporters and everything. So you got to schedule 64 press conferences during the course of the span of a few days, and you've got to get all these players, like all of the players participating in the Combine have to be available as well to the media at some point. Now, some of them are not significant enough that I think they had. This is when I used to do it. They put it in like a very small room. I know they've changed it so it's in a bigger room now. They might have every player go to a podium. It used to be that some of the players they would just bring in and they would like, "Hey, this guy's in the room," and he would just sort of be standing there, like you know,
to swamp him and
right when Manti Te'o came into the room, obviously a podium, like a big setting, and then they bring in, Dexter McDougal. I like.
Come on,
he was a good guy.
Come on.
They'd bring him in, and they'd be like, "Yeah," and now also standing over in the corner by himself. You'll find Dexter McDougal, and then myself and like Jeff Zrebeck would like saunter over. Like anybody who was from Maryland would saunter over to see whoever the Maryland prospect was that had just come into the room. Now, oh God, I can't even think of these guys' names now. Whatever, who cares? Nolan Carroll. Nolan Carroll standing by himself in the corner. Nobody, it would almost be like a bit. And if you're very bored, Colin Carroll.
Colin.
Nolan.
Corbin Carroll's at the NFL Combine?
Corbin Carroll's hanging out at the Combine. If you have literally nothing to do with your time and you just want to talk.
Just be so mean to these kids.
Nolan Carroll
Gosh.
is sitting at a table by himself like he was that weird kid from 7th grade. If you really just want to keep someone company today,
almost
Nolan Carroll.
Feels mean to these kids.
They weren't
to
actually
do it.
saying those things. It was just the way that it felt. Like if you were doing a sketch comedy act about it,
Right,
that was the way that it would go, because you would bring some guys in and you would know
Feels
that
some
they would
truth
bring
to this, some accuracy.
Johnny
People weren't saying it.
you didn't even have to announce Johnny Manziel was in the room. Like Johnny Manziel would walk in and 600 people would follow after him. They'd be like pushing each other out of the way. And then there's Nolan Carroll. And again, if one of you...
Does Nolan Carroll keep catching strays here?
Nolan Carroll had a nice career, I want to say. I like Nolan Carroll. But he was not a prominent player going to the Combine. Like, remember, the Combine's not just for the first-round picks. The Combine's for... I think we had 200 or so guys go to the Combine, something like that.
Yeah, I think is it closer to 300 now?
It might be
like,
now.
Yeah.
It might be that like it's a draft's worth of players that get
Named 3
that go to the
teams for
Combine.
Nolan Carroll.
Nolan Carroll's definitely a Dolphin.
He was drafted by the Dolphins in 2010.
I want to say he was an Eagle.
Yes, then he went to the Eagles after 4 seasons with
Third team.
Miami.
Third team. Commanders.
Close. Incorrect
It's
NFC.
not the Ravens.
Incorrect NFC East team.
The Giants.
Not the Giants.
The Cowboys. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Ended his career with the Cowboys.
Sure, I believe you. Great guy. I really like Nolan Carroll. I was just trying to think of, I just happened to remember hanging out with Nolan Carroll at the Combine. It's been years since I've gone to the Combine, dude. Like, it has been a decade since I've been to the Combine, so trying to remember the player that I was thinking of. I remember one year, one of the things I used to do at the Combine, this is a straight shoot, I've told people this before, I would literally go get every prospect's phone number. Like, they would bring a guy into the room, and, like, I would just walk up and be like, hey, man, can we be in touch? And I would get... People would ask me how I would have all these. Like, dude, how did you have all them? Like, because I would go to the Combine and I would just ask. And these guys would be like, I guess. And they would just give me their phone number. Like, they would. And it was great. Like,
You think it would be
way more difficult to do today. Way more difficult to do today. These guys have been coached and
media trained.
the number of guys that, like, over the years would get drafted
So
by
you're
the
just taking advantage of these kids, huh?
I wasn't taking advantage of them. I asked. I asked them a question. They could have said no. I don't remember any prospect ever saying no. And I would go to the Combine and ask I'm from top down.
Walk out there with 250 numbers.
I remember, this is how stupid the guy that ran the radio station I used to work for was. He was like, what are you out here getting boys' phone numbers? And I just like looked at him like, what? Do you know nothing about how any of our business works? Like, I realize that all you are is like a star effer, but like, do you have any clue how we do radio? Some of these guys are going to be drafted by the Ravens. Others of them might be Ravens 5 years from now. Do you have any idea how beneficial that legwork that no one else was willing to
Tom
do
Brady.
that? Yeah, correct. I was the guy that was willing to, like a dope, walk around and ask every prospect at the Combine for their phone number. And I got made fun of for it.
As you should, yeah.
Yeah, what a loser I was. Trying to do, like, work. What a thought. God. But yes, the Eric DeCosta is scheduled to meet with the media in moments, and if he says anything interesting, which I'm going to just assume he probably won't, but if he happens to. Oh, by the way, wasn't there some team that we were supposed to follow up with about a guest because it's Combine
correct.
time?
Yes, we were.
Did we do that?
Yeah, I've been trying.
Okay, I'm just making
Yes.
Griffin. It's been lean.
I understand.
Lean.
I do understand.
Lean of late. All right. Well, you keep me updated on it.
All right, I will.
You keep me. You let me know. Yeah, we'll go from there. If any of them say anything, I will react to it as appropriately. And if apparently Shaq Barrett might be released, that one would be.
I believe that is correct.
That's obviously there's the additional interest there because he's from Baltimore, and so. I don't know if Shaq Barrett would care at all. Ian Rappaport reported this morning the Bucs are releasing Pro Bowl pass rusher Shaq Barrett, clearing cap space with important contract decisions ahead. You'd think there would still be a fairly robust market for Shaq Barrett. Like you would think that. I don't. I'm not going to pretend like I know that. Shaq.
He's 31.
Wow, I didn't realize he was already 31. Jeez. Man, how old am I? God. That's terrifying. Shaq Barrett's 31. Boy, it's been 2 years since he's had a good season. Man, I did not realize that Shaq Barrett had kind of fallen off the way he had the last couple of seasons. Just 4.5 sacks a year ago. I would have to look at some of the more, dive in on some of the other numbers that matter. Like, hang on a second. Let me see if I can pull up edge rush win rate. Because then the question is, if the market is depleted a bit for Shaq Barrett, could he be your Jadeveon Clowney for
Right. He had 5 sacks last year, 3 sacks in 22.
Yeah, but 10 sacks a year before that, right?
Yeah.
Like
11 during their 12 during their Super Bowl. We're on 11 the year after that. He had 20 sacks in 2019.
Yeah, that was bonkers, man. Like that really was, and it came really out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, because that was his first season in Tampa after 4 in Denver.
I can't find an edge rush
wow.
win rate.
He had 6 his rookie year, and then had 4, 3, 2.
Dude, it really
20.
was wildly out of nowhere. Hang on a second. I'm looking at Pro Football Focus has an edge rush free agency ranking.
He was a 73 grade last year.
Okay.
His highest grade was an 81. Or sorry, no, during his on his rookie contract, he had some 80s with Denver. But 81 and 22, 21 on.
Well, so last year, PFF gave him an 80.1 pass rush grade.
Yes.
A true pass set pass
Actually,
rush
I'm
grade.
seeing 82. I don't know why I'm seeing different numbers.
I don't know either.
But his pass rush grade, according to mine, was 82.
Had a 12% pass rush win rate last year. It's not great. I would have to know about, double team rate, all of those things. I'm trying to give some perspective. He had a 12% win rate. And for comparison, Andrew Van Ginkel was an 18% win rate. Kyle Van Noy was 19%. I don't know. I'd be intrigued. But look, admittedly, part of that is because he's from here, and so it'd be an interesting story. And I always love a good story. But 31. If the Ravens aren't going to be swimming in the highest end of the edge rush market, and I don't know how they could. Also, I don't know is Josh Allen going to be a free agent? Like, is he actually going to be available and on the market? Part of this problem is, like, you look at all these free agent listings and you don't know who the guys are. They're going to be tagged before they ever get to free agency or going to sign a deal. So the question is, what is the high end of the free agent market? So if the Ravens aren't swimming in those waters and they're trying to find a way to maximize, to say, could Shaq Barrett be their Jadeveon Clowney next season? Maybe. Like, obviously,
we won't know until September 1st. Like, that's probably.
Oh yeah, they just wait. They wait until then in order to sign. Yeah, I don't know if they have to do that. I don't know. I'd be interested, and I'd have to look at who the other players would be that would be in that sort of category of edge rushers,
of aging edge rusher.
Or I don't even know that it has to be aging as much as it's like guy that is talented but isn't like marquee at the moment. And so you feel as though there might be an opportunity. Edge rush free agents. I'm trying to make sure that I have. I'm pretty sure that Josh Allen is supposed to be a.
They are talking about
agent.
Tagging him.
They're talking about tagging him.
Yes. Is what it looks like.
Brian Burns
Trent
obviously
Baalke
would be close to the top. Danielle Hunter would be close to the top. Again, these provided these players actually reach free agency, which is a question at the moment. Of course, Chase Young. I saw somebody else banging the Chase Young drum, and I can't remember who it was this week for the Ravens.
Will Bowen?
Matt Bowen.
Matt
Bowen
sorry.
from ESPN
Yes.
is
Yeah,
exactly
Matt
who
Bowen.
it was banging the Chase Young drum, with his point being it would be a 1-year kind of prove-it deal to go after Chase Young. And I would say I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that. I do know that, like, it didn't work in San Francisco. So just getting him to a place that was less toxic than Washington didn't suddenly bring the best out of Chase Young. There's a Chase Young problem. It's something we always like to talk about. Rita, for example, she loves Dalvin Cook. And she's like, we got to stop judging Dalvin Cook by what happened in New York. It's an awful place to be, awful turf, the whole thing. And I hear you. That's a factor to me. But Chase Young got to a better place. He got out of the toxicity of Washington, went to a place where they were in line to win a Super Bowl, and still was barely a contributor. Like, there was talk about him not being active for the Super Bowl. So I'm not enamored with the Chase Young idea, but if you say, hey, it's in the NFL, there can't be a bad one-year contract, right? Like, if that's what the market is for him, if they think the opportunity's there in Baltimore, I'm not saying no, but there's an awful lot of questions about his give a damn. And I don't like being that guy. I don't like having that conversation. There's questions about Anthony Rendon's give a damn for good reason, right? Like, I think it matters, and I don't know that you can force the give a damn out of somebody just because they're in a good spot. And I would have to consider that because they couldn't force it out of him in San Francisco. They weren't able to tap in to the talent that we all thought was undeniable coming out of college and early in his NFL career. What's happened there, not being around, I couldn't possibly explain it. It makes no sense.
We know he's going to be a great Raven in about 4 years.
Right, because he's not 30 yet, so you can't. Yeah. How old is Chase Young? Like 27?
He is actually still 24. He will be
24.
He'll be 25 in a month.
Christ, how is that possible?
He'll be 25 in a month.
Yeah, you're right. We're still years away. From
his prime Ravens days.
Consideration. Jonathan Greenard's a free agent. Man, he was a monster last year. God, I like that. Zadarius is a free agent again. I don't know if that's gonna. I don't know how they would feel about that.
How old is he now? He might fit the bill.
Yeah, but wasn't he supposed to come back last year and then he balked at the last second?
Oh yeah, you're
right. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if that would be the road that they would go down. All right, we will monitor.
He is 31. He'll be 32 in September, so perfect.
Does seem
celebrate his 32nd birthday, September 8th.
That part of
contract with the Ravens.
And look, I love Zadarius. That part of it makes sense, but I feel like they tried to do the reunion with Zadarius, and once that didn't work out, they probably say, all right, we gave that a shot.
Big omission. Zrebiak tweeted, DaCosta has said they are trying to get a deal done with Justin Madubuike.
Sure.
I believe him.
I'm sure they are. I don't think we needed to ask him that in order to know that. Which doesn't mean knocking whoever asked. You have to ask. But, I don't think we're learning anything because he's saying they're trying to get a deal done. Yes!
We're hopeful we can get a long-term deal done. He put himself in a fortuitous position.
I believe they are hopeful they can get a long-term deal done. I believe that.
No one's saying if he confirmed if he liked or didn't like Justin Madubuike.
Right, we haven't heard. We like Justin. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Let's grab a break. Patrick Stevens is going to join us when we come back in. Today's show is also brought to you by Toyota and County Sports Zone. Of course, we get into County Sports Zone Radio. Oh, wait, are we doing County Sports? We're doing County Sports Zone Radio next.
Correct, we are.
I'm on top of things, man. I'll get there eventually. Yeah. County Sports Zone Radio when we come back in, as it was a big weekend. All right, we'll do that coming up next. We'll check in with Wes Brown, talk about the MIAA championships, everything else going on in the world of high school hoops. We continue on a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Jeremy Kahn here. The ultimate sports betting experience in Maryland is at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook. Join me at either location in Canton or in Towson and place your bets in person and be a part of the action. It's the best in-class sports wagering experience, complete with the ultimate TV package, ensuring you can catch every game all day, every day. Their state-of-the-art facilities bring Las Vegas energy right here to Maryland just in time for postseason football. So visit the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook in Canton and Towson and elevate your game day experience and hang out with me to bet, watch, and win at the Turtle.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Again, just monitoring what Derek DaCosta is saying out at the Combine. From Jeff Zrebeck's Twitter account, quote, "We need more than 2 running backs," unquote. I agree. Said they're still talking to Gus Edwards about a return, and they'll also talk to J.K. Dobbins, but either way, they'll make additions there. Well, if additions means, any player that's not currently on the roster, well, then yes, of course, because they only have Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell currently on the roster. So obviously they will make some sort of additions. Does that tell us about whether or not they're actually going to go after Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley? Nope, sure doesn't. And as I said when we were doing this exercise before, they were never going to tell us whether they were going to definitively go after one of those guys. The smoke continues to be there for the idea that the Ravens will dip their toes in those waters. Opinions vary. You guys read my column yesterday at PressBoxOnline.com. I'm not opposed to the players. I just think the money is better spent elsewhere. If they can address everywhere they need to and still somehow bring in a top-notch running back, bully. I'm just not. I'm skeptical of that, I think is the nicest way to say it. And I probably am going to end up saying no. I don't think that's the way to go. But we'll see what they end up doing, and they, as we talked about with Stan last week, I would say that Eric DaCosta has arguably earned a little bit of we'll show some more faith in you at the moment, based on the heater that he was on last offseason. Just addressed Odell Beckham, quote, "We'll assess and see what happens over the next couple of weeks," unquote. They're not going to tell you anything. They're not.
He's been texting him too.
Well, we did learn that. That was definitely something we couldn't have possibly would have thought they were dead to each other. Oh, you're a free agent now? I'll never talk to you again. I'm not trying to be that guy. It's just that, guys, we're not going to learn anything. Short of they actually have something that they've done, like to Griffin's point. If they had, at 10:30 a.m. today, put the franchise tag on Justin Madubuike, then we would have learned something. But they probably would have put out a press release about it. It's just, it's a futile exercise. Like, I think it's important that the decision makers within a franchise are available to meet with the media. It's just that we know enough to know they're not gonna say anything. It's kind of a dance any longer. It's just an exercise. When there's something to be told, they'll tell it. And until there is, they're just not going to do it because they're operating a business, and, a multi-billion-dollar business at that. We'll keep watching to see if something interesting does happen to pop up. All right, Goose Flight's Lager is delicious, and it's available all over town. You see that awesome collector's can as we celebrate the life and legacy of Tony Siragusa.
I had one Friday night.
Where were you?
Stopped at Glory Days.
Oh, which Glory Days did
in
you go to?
Eldersburg.
Out in Eldersburg.
Carroll County, baby.
Because as Griffin points out, cans available at
yeah.
all of the Glory Days Grill locations throughout the state of Maryland. And it is a tasty lager. So get out to any of the Glory Days Grill locations. You can also get cans at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook in Canton, as well as at Alonzo's on Cold Spring Lane. On top of that, cans and sixers are available, both at Guilford Hall Brewery and at the Costas Inn. And sixers and cases are available at the Wine Source in Hamden. As I said, let me go take a step back. $1.98 from every can goes to the Goose Flights Foundation and the work that Tony's family is doing to provide non-emergency medical transport to those in need. And in concert with the release of Goose Flights, you have 2 days left to get in our contest to win up to $1,000 in Baltimore sports ticket credit. So go to PressBoxOnline.com/GooseFlights to sign up today. No purchase necessary. PressBoxOnline.com/GooseFlights in order to sign up. Big week in high school hoops. Let's cover all of it right now. It's time for County Sports Zone Radio. He is Wes Brown from County Sports Zone, and he's with us on GCR. Wes, what a week it was in not only the MIAA, but all throughout the course of the state. Thanks, as always, taking the time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with the action from the A Conference and ultimately Mount St. Joe winning the title on Saturday.
Yeah, another big time battle between Mount St. Joe and Archbishop Spalding there. Ton of great athletes on both sides, but the Gales managed to pull it out 57-52. It was their third title in the last 4 full seasons, and they finished with a 23-2 record. But it was 2 close semifinal and finals, so it wasn't necessarily convincing blowout fashion, but they managed to get the job done.
So I was not aware until a couple of weeks ago that there might be a familiar name for some Maryland basketball fans. I did not know that Bino Ranson's son BJ was on the Mount St. Joe roster. I know he's not like the star player on that team, but perhaps an interesting name for some fans of basketball in this area to be following over the course of the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, for sure. And then you also, I think you have Juan Dixon's son in the MIA as well.
How about that? How about that?
Number of really big names. You start to get some of those sons of players that are coming up through the ranks. So it was always interesting to see those.
That wasn't the only title that was handed out on Saturday.
Yep. So they had the BNC Conference Championships as well. All this at UMBC. Severn won its first title, defeating Gersel Academy 62-46. And St. Peter's and Paul beat Beth Tiflo 68-58. Sabres, lost to them last year. The title last year, almost a completely flipped scoreline. I think last year was 65-58. So pretty cool there to have that rematch.
All right. Not just the MIAA that was handing out championships last week.
Yeah, so actually last night was the WCAC, boys and girls final. St. Paul coming over Gonzaga there by 12, 63-51 for the boys title. And then you had, St. John's College, over Bishop McNamara 45-41 for the girls title. It's been a heck of a run for St. John's, third consecutive WCAC title there for the cadets. So definitely a pretty big run for them. I know them and Bishop McNamara is kind of, the two big WCAC teams. So it was definitely a good game last night in American.
All right. And how about an athlete of the week from hoops?
Yeah, so going to that WCAC final, Darren Harris, the Duke commit, who's also the WCAC Player of the Year, helped lead them to the title last night with 21 points and 6 rebounds, shooting 6 of 13 from the field and 7 of 8 from the free throw line. They obviously had a lot of pieces contribute, but he was one of the standout players from all these private school championships.
Awesome. And I know the star from Mount St. Joe was Jordan Brathwaite, who's going to Yale. By the way, pretty impressive to not just be the star player leading your team to a conference title, but then to be headed to Yale after that. Not bad for Jordan Brathwaite. Really, really cool. So run me down now. This is we're chatting with Wes Brown here for County Sports Zone Radio. The private school championships out of the way. Now we get towards public school playoffs. What's the schedule look like there?
Yeah, so everything starts tonight with the boys basketball region quarterfinals. Girls start tomorrow, and then we'll kind of see throughout, each round. Every 2 days will be boys one day, girls the next day. But state, public school playoffs start tonight. We got all the brackets on County Sports Zone, so you'll be able to track, the scores, the schedules, the winners, as everything advances through the brackets on there.
And so, what weekend is championship weekend?
March 15th and 16th.
Okay.
They're going to have the 8 games at UMD between those 2 days.
And then how quickly do we get into spring sports season after that? What's the schedule look like?
It's pretty much that next week, like Thursday, Friday or so.
Okay.
I think they're able to start practice here in a couple weeks, but you'll have some of those, dual sport, tri-sport athletes, jumping back in after basketball ends.
So baseball, lacrosse underway after that. All right, give everybody the rundown for Pick'em, for everything they can find at County Sports Zone, and then the social media rundown as well.
Yep, so County Sports Zone is your home for all the scores, schedules, streams, Pick'em, anything relating to high school sports in Maryland. For Pick'em, we're doing a few different, slates for each round of the playoffs here on the boys' side. I think we've got up, Montgomery, PG, Howard, Charles County for this one coming up today. Simply just sign up, make your picks left and right, who you think is going to win, and compete with other players there. But yeah, we've got pretty much everything you're going to need for this playoff season, and we'll have coverage as well on, on our site and on social media, at CSC Scores on Twitter and Instagram, and then I'm at W_Brown21.
Of course, County Sports Zone proudly sponsored by Toyota and buyatoyota.com. Wes Brown, appreciate you, man. Let's talk again next Tuesday, all right?
All right, sounds good.
Wes Brown with us from County Sports Zone here for County Sports Zone Radio on GCR. All right. I'm just continuing to monitor. Just keep waiting. Keep waiting for something interesting. Keep waiting for something.
Why do you keep waiting when you know?
I mean,
nothing will.
It would be nice. Eric Costa said that Madubuike will probably be tagged if no extension is reached before next Tuesday. So that's, by the way, to me, by far the closest thing you'll get the news, only because there was a faint chance that people were considering the possibility that maybe the Ravens – who do we have on recently that talked about that? That, the Ravens have just let some guys go. And I was like, yeah, they're not letting Justin Madubuike. We had somebody on that said that, and I was like – it might have been Fowler, by the way, who brought that up. And I was just like, yeah. And he referenced, I want to say, Judon, but they tagged Judon once. They tried with Judon. Zadarius Smith, obviously. They were never just letting Justin Madubuike go. But for whatever reason, that still continued to be something that like a very, like the small sliver of people believed might be in play. So the closest thing to tangible information is that like if there was a 1% chance that the Ravens would let Justin Madubuike go, that statement gets rid of that 1% chance. But that's the standard that I'm giving for information, is that it's 1% relevant. That there was the 1 in a million chance that they were just going to allow Justin Madubuike to walk and say we're never going to pay him the price that it would cost in order to keep him around. Or we refuse to take on $22 million in one season if we can't work out a long-term deal. It never made sense. Justin Madubuike established himself as a star. You don't let star players just walk in the prime of their career. You just don't do that. And that would be, derelict of duty if you were doing that. So Eric DaCosta confirms, man, by the way, he even hedges that, probably.
Probably, yes.
But that's by the way, that's how low the bar is. The bar is so low that that's the closest thing you might get to actual information. Just the reality of the circumstances, unfortunately. And the Ravens will try. And the other thing, too, to keep in mind is, much like we talked about with the Ronnie Stanley decision, and I know there's something that Brian McFarland brought up when we talked to him, even though the savings wouldn't come until after June 1st, they can budget around that. If this thing drags out with Madubuike a little bit, it'll be frustrating because you'll have to get under the cap with his $22 million figure, but you still have until July to try to change that number for this season and clear up some space for the incidentals that can come up during the course of the year. Like if you have to sign somebody because of an injury, something like that, you can still hope to get that fixed. But ideally, you get it done pretty quickly. And typically the way it works is you don't do the tag and then get a deal done the next day. I don't know why it is. It's almost like once the tag's in place, we're like, all right, we're going to deal with other things now. In a perfect world, if you have to tag him next week and then you can get a deal done 3 days later, good news. But it just never seems to be that way. It seems to be that like if you might do the tag and then after the draft,
right,
revisit it and get a deal done
like Lamar
before
took
the July
2 months
deadline.
Almost. Right before the draft.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was the same weekend as the draft that they got the deal done.
Wasn't it like an hour before the draft?
Yeah, it was. It was exactly right. It is exactly when it got in. So I don't know why that is. And by the way, that's on the quicker end.
Right.
Of tag situations. Now, most of the time, quarterbacks, obviously, the rules are completely different. That's on the quicker end of when a tag player ends up getting a deal done. When we come back in this time, we're going to chat with Patrick Stevens and talk some Terps, I guess. I don't know what we would talk about. Hoops.
You got a new player coming in.
He's not here. Next year they have a player coming in. I don't know what we'll talk about. Lacrosse for sure. We talk college sports with Patrick Stevens on Tuesday, so we're going to do it next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Hey, it's Jeremy Kahn. This postseason, bet in person at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks with locations in Canton and in Towson, and enjoy the best in-class sports wagering experience at their state-of-the-art facilities, bringing an unmatched sports betting thrill.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover your next favorite beer crafted in the heart of Charm City. At Guilford Hall Brewery, we believe beer should be flavorful and easy to enjoy. Our meticulously crafted lagers and ales are derived from centuries-old European brewing traditions, a staple for both the seasoned beer aficionado or a novice hophead. Experience beer styles that dare to showcase the exceptionality of simplicity. Visit our restaurant and brewery at 1611 Guilford Avenue or view our menu and tap map app, online at guilfordhall.com. Guilford Hall Brewery, European tradition, Baltimore charm.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR. If you missed it yesterday, Stan the Fan, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson, talking baseball. You can find that at facebook.com/PressBoxSports, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. And later this hour, we'll be talking baseball with the great Scott McGregor, who, of course, spent some time as a guest instructor down at Orioles Spring Training. We'll get some thoughts on what he saw, particularly from the pitchers, a little bit later on this hour. In the meantime, it is a Tuesday, and on Tuesdays, we talk college sports with our friend from the Washington Post, USA Lacrosse Magazine. You follow him on Twitter at Discourse, D1S Course. He's Mr. Patrick Stevens, and he's with us now here on GCR. Patrick, it's Glenn. It's good to talk to you as always, pal. Thanks for taking the time for us.
Thanks for having me.
I was jokingly saying coming in, I don't know what there is to talk about on the hoops level at this point. Maryland won a game. That's swell. They got that going for them, which is nice. The Towson thing, that was not great on Saturday, obviously.
Well, we'll start with Maryland. How about Maryland and Rutgers? Both games between the two teams finishing with exactly 109 points.
How about that?
Way to be consistent, guys. Yeah. 56-53 and 63-46. So Maryland basically now a win away from being no worse than a 500 team. I mean, I guess there's an outside chance they could, win one game, lose the rest, and somehow still get an NIT berth. But in all likelihood, you win one of the next 4, and you got yourself a 500 season in all likelihood.
Well, how about
that? And frankly, they probably should. It's not like they were that far away from beating Northwestern, and Indiana is just in complete shambles, I think, at this point. So it's an opportunity, as weird as it sounds, for Maryland to get on a little bit of a roll as March gets underway. With these 2 games, they find themselves at 17-13. We're not talking NCAA tournament or anything like that, but we're at least talking about a team that can feel decent about the way it finished the season, or at least finished heading into that game up at Penn State, which seems to bedevil Maryland no matter who's on the roster, who's coaching, what year it is. But it would be sort of interesting to see Maryland be able to get on a little bit of a spurt here. And you certainly have to give credit to the defensive effort up at Rutgers. As for Towson, looking more and more like a team they've got some work to do simply to get a top 4 seed right now. They probably need to sweep North Carolina A&T and UNC Wilmington this weekend to make that happen. And even then, you kind of got a sense of what could happen if they caught Charleston on the wrong day with that game in Towson on Saturday. Charleston shot 15 of 22 from 3. Probably not going to happen again quite like that, but that's a team that when it's really going, it is a bit better than everybody else in that league. So if you're Towson, you're sitting here and you have basically split the last 4 cycles, the last 4 weekends. Northeastern in a loss to Hofstra, lost to Delaware, beat Elon, beat William & Mary, lost to Hampton, beat Monmouth, lost to Charleston. I mean, that has all the makings of a team that's going to continue that trend right on through to being like a 5 or 6 seed in the CAA tournament and not being able to get out of the quarterfinals. So it's a team that has had offensive issues all season. If the defense isn't going to be great, and credit to Charleston more so for what happened the other day, but you got to score to win if you're Towson, and scoring 56 points against one of the top teams in the CAA just is not going to get it done.
Probably not. Let me go back to Maryland for a second, because the big news last week is they land this 5-star prospect in Derrick Queen. Presuming that Derrick Queen is the player that everybody thinks he is immediately, and I get that is a difficult presumption to make with any freshman. Even, Diamond Stone was once upon a time going to be a savior for Maryland basketball, and we saw how that worked out. But just for the sake of the conversation, presuming Derrick Queen is the player that everybody says that he is, what else do they need to do this offseason in order to put together a roster that's capable of competing in the Big Ten next year?
Well, I'll give you 3 things that they absolutely need: a shooter, and a shooter. But let's also throw in a point guard. It would help if the point guard can shoot too.
Yeah.
If that doesn't get fixed, then you're basically looking at essentially trying to do the exact same thing you did this year, except having a higher end big man, and maybe maybe you get a deal where maybe Queen and Julian Reese get to play together for a year or something like that. You have a great front court, but somebody's still got to get them the ball, and somebody still has to be able to open up space by stretching the floor. So if you're Maryland, if you can't shoot better than 29% from 3, and as I look at the KenPom profile right now, that's 347th nationally, which, as hard as it is to believe, that's a stark improvement over what things looked like at the start of the season for Maryland. But that's still not good. That's still ahead of, from what I can gather, exactly 2 power conference teams, one of them being Vanderbilt, who's just dreadful in general, and the other is Texas A&M, which has shown kind of similar signs of being able to be a pain to good teams, but has also had some puzzling losses thrown in as well. So if you're Maryland, priority 1 is being able to put more points on the board, and that's going to start with being able to hit more 3-pointers than what they've been able to do this season.
He is Patrick Stevens. He's with us here on GCR. Patrick, I tend to give you this question every year as we get deeper into February, but on a national front, because for like a minute last week, everybody was coming around. Well, we finally have, it's UConn. They're definitively the best team, and then they, get hammered by Creighton. So if we play the game of how many teams do I need to give you for you to be confident that you've got the national champion, what is that number at this point?
Given how good Connecticut, Purdue, and Houston are, I'm not saying it's going to come from one of those 3 teams, but I feel like one of those 3 is probably going to be hanging around until the final weekend. I'm always going to kind of spread things out a little bit more, and I feel like my answer to you usually comes in somewhere around 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that, like if we had gone to 20 last year, would that 20 have included San Diego State and Florida Atlantic who played on the final weekend?
Correct.
So, as I'm sitting here, is this the year, for example, that St. Mary's makes a run? Is this a year that we get maybe another one of those Mountain West teams that's been so spunky all season, a Colorado State with a great point guard like Isaiah Stevens, or Utah State, or whoever that makes a run? Is this a year that maybe we get a random, like, is this the year Clemson's actually going to do something deep in basketball? And so I'll go ahead and say that number is probably somewhere between 20 and 25 right now. But the thing is that in a single elimination tournament, this isn't the NBA playoffs.
Yep.
Like the NBA playoffs do a better job than any other sport in this country in determining the best team, because you have to go through 4 best-of-7s to do it. And you don't have things like goalie luck or anything like that you would have in hockey. In a single elimination tournament, you know, who knows? If we ran last year's 100,000 simulations of last year's tournament, how many times would Purdue have actually won rather than lost?
It's a fair question. Yep.
Like my guess is that Purdue would have won the whole thing more often than it lost to Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yeah.
But you only get one shot at it.
Yep.
So, you know, I think that ultimately when you look back at what Connecticut was a 3 or 4 seed last season, 4 seed. So, you know, we're sitting here. If we were sitting here kind of sizing up where they belonged, we would have said they were probably somewhere between 10 and 20 at this point last year. So, you know, is that team between 10 and 20 like a Marquette that can look really good at times, or Kentucky, which can score, or an Alabama perhaps? Who knows? But, you know, I think that the list of teams that have the ability to win 6 games in a row is probably a lot larger than people want to give it credit for. And when I say like 20 to 25, I might be shortchanging that.
And then I'm sure you've stored up all of your hot takes about court storming for us to dive into today, right? Like I'm sure.
Well, I'm going to give you a really, really boring assessment. Like if you can do it safely and get everybody out of there,
yeah,
then go ahead and do it.
You know, I'll tell you.
If you can't do it safely,
Patrick Griffin
if you
had.
can't do it safely, then don't do it. Then you can't do it. Like
Griffin had the idea yesterday.
Example.
You put up a 30-second clock after the game and say, once the game's over, you got to wait 30 seconds before you can come on the court to allow 30 seconds for everybody to clear out. And I was like, I'm listening on that. That's not a bad idea.
That's not terrible. You know, like, I mean, the reality is if we want to sit here and say what really went wrong in that Duke at the end of that Duke Wake game, it's that the Wake Forest security personnel were understaffed and wholly unprepared for what was coming next. And I get it. Okay. Wake Forest hasn't won many of those kind of games in a long time. So, you know, it's understandable that they might not be used to what that takes. But Wake's good now, and they probably should have been ready for it, especially against a team that you know. Like, I mean, there's somebody. I think it was Brett Strelo who used to cover basketball down there. Now works at App State, who had like a running list of every time Duke lost on the road and whether the court got stormed. And it was like 95% of the time over the previous 15 years, the court was stormed when Duke lost on the road. So you know it's coming. So you got to make sure that you take care to ensure everybody gets out of there safely. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, you want to beat, and no matter what, like you want to beat somebody, but you don't want them to get hurt. Like you don't want that. That's not what anybody's here for. And by the way, you know, with the greater athlete empowerment stuff and the future of, you know, a likely future of collective bargaining, you better believe that that's probably going to be something that gets addressed at some point down the road. Maybe not this year or next, but in the next 5 to 10 years. Wouldn't be shocked if that is an issue that is addressed in a negotiation between players and conferences / schools, as opposed to simply a policy that we're sitting here dithering about right now.
I tend to agree. I think it would be good if it was some sort of uniform policy somehow, some way. And to the point, what you just said, I think to me is if you can't figure out how to do it safely, then it just goes away and it's all going to be okay. Like, it is not like court storming is so imperative to the overall success of college basketball or health of college basketball that it would be some disastrous thing if they say, look, we just can't find a uniform way to make sure everybody's protected. It might have to go away altogether.
And gosh, you'll just have to go back. You'll just have to go out to a bar.
Right, I know.
These kids make merry revelry that way.
These kids it would be awful for them if that were the case. Just awful. All right, let's go to the lacrosse front. Tonight I've got Loyola Towson, 2 teams going in very different ways at the moment. How much should we be buying into what we've seen from Towson over the course of the last few weeks?
You know, I like what I've seen from them, and I don't know how this team is going to hold up when it has to deal with Virginia in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But there's no reason to think this isn't the team that's most likely to create headaches for Delaware in the CAA this year. I don't know how good this St. Joe's team is going to be. There's probably a little bit of a perception bump for them from the Zach Cole years, and when they were winning 70% of their faceoffs. And don't know quite how good the Hawks are, but I think that they're further along as a program than they were even 5 years or so ago. That's a victory that's probably going to look at least moderately decent, like a 30 to 40 RPI win, as opposed to maybe what you would think of a decade or so ago about St. Joe's, and have it be more like a decade and a half ago and have it be something in the 50s or something like that. So I think there's something good to be said about Towson, the way they're playing, the way they're handling their business. And so certainly an interesting week for them with Loyola and UMBC back to back. And there's a chance that we're sitting here looking at a Towson team that has a 5-game winning streak going into that game against Virginia at home on March 9th.
And then speaking of handling business, that's what Maryland and Hopkins continue to do at the start of the season.
Yeah, Maryland was very workmanlike. I was down in College Park for that one, and they, it's funny. The last 4 times they played Princeton, they've got out to lead 4-1, 5-1, 5-1, and now 6-1. And they just sort of did that Maryland thing where they sucked the life out of them. And so 13-7 was a pretty fair assessment. Luke Weirman was fantastic. It was funny. I was telling somebody, Weirman's the sort of guy that, he's going to go win his 55 to 70% of the faceoffs, but he probably isn't going to go too nuts. And then he goes nuts, right, and wins 20 out of 23. So credit to Weirman for having a fabulous game and for reminding me of what happens when he really, really gets on a tear. But you look at them; they are doing a lot of things really, really well. They're spreading the scoring out. They've got a tough test for sure going out to a Notre Dame team that's going to be very cranky after having lost to Georgetown in overtime. But I think if you had offered John Tillman 4-0, even with 2 1-goal overtime victories at this point, I think he would have signed up for that a month ago in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Hopkins took care of business against Carolina. So let's get to our game. Can Patrick Stevens name the MLB teams that this particular player has played for or managed? And I'll tell you that the manager this week comes to us. I gave this to Griffin earlier. Last night at Monday Night Trivia, one of the questions that was asked is, who were the first black coach in the NBA and black manager in baseball? And do I need to give you the hints that they gave us?
Well, we're talking about what? Is it 4 teams or 5 teams for Frank Robinson?
So, yes, Frank Robinson obviously is the answer. And it's 4 teams, correct, for Frank Robinson.
Then his 4 teams are Cleveland from, what was that? It was 76 to 78.
Of course, this would just freeze up on me. Yeah, I believe that's right, but I'll tell you in 2 seconds because as I had it pulled up, it was 75 to 77. Pretty good.
75 to 77. How about San Francisco from 80 to 84 in that range?
81 to 84. And
then the Orioles from 88 to 91.
Correct.
And then the Expo Nats.
Yes, that's correct.
From what would that have been? 03 to 06?
02 to 06. Well done. Well freaking done on Frank Robinson. Next up, 5 teams for this man who I kind of quietly stopped playing a few years ago. An All-Star just once, also a World Series champion once. Can you give me the 5 teams for Dexter Fowler?
Dexter Fowler, let's get the 3 that I'm reasonably sure of out of the way first, right?
Yep.
He was definitely in Colorado at the start of his career,
for
right?
6 years, correct.
And then he was with both the Cubs and the Cardinals.
Sure
correct?
was, including his All-Star appearance and World Series title with the Cubs. So what you're missing is he spent the entire 2014 season somewhere between the Rockies and the Cubs, and then he played 1 more year in 2021 after his time with the Cardinals.
Am I thinking that gap year was Houston?
It certainly was Houston. That's correct. And then in fairness, it was only 7 games in his final.
Only 7 games for Dexter Fowler.
Yeah.
I don't know, the Giants maybe?
Nah, you were on the right coast. The Angels was the final stop for Dexter Fowler.
I do not remember Dexter Fowler.
I do not either.
Los Angeles Angels.
No recollection of it whatsoever. And then timely, he just announced his retirement from baseball last week. 4 teams for someone who I was stunned to learn was only an All-Star once. Finished in the top 25 of MVP voting twice, 4-time Gold Glove winner, Eric Hosmer.
Eric Hosmer was definitely in San Diego.
Most certainly.
Was definitely in Kansas City.
Of course. And then it was there were 2 at the end.
2 at the end. Great.
I'll tell you, I don't remember either one of them, and one of them was last year, and I don't remember it at all.
Eric Hosmer, I'm going to remember. I will come up with who that was at some point.
Yeah.
If left to my own devices. Eric Hosmer last season. Oh gosh. Was he in? It feels like somebody who was a Red for a second, but probably wasn't.
No, not a Red.
And Tampa, maybe?
No. If he was traded in 2022 from the Padres to the Red Sox, and then last year he was a Cub, and I don't remember that at all.
No, he wasn't.
I agree. I have no memory of it whatsoever. All right, Patrick Stevens, what's on the docket for you this week, sir?
We'll be headed to George Washington tonight to see new Mid-American Conference school.
That's right,
Massachusetts.
UMass, yeah.
So they're apparently on their way out in a couple years. That's I don't think a formal announcement there. Tomorrow, Maryland Northwestern, and then over the weekend, a George Mason Duquesne Georgetown Xavier doubleheader on Saturday, and Maryland and Indiana on Sunday. And then it's coming to an end. The final MEAC Monday of the season is next week.
Oh.
So it's always sad. It goes so fast. But I believe I'll be at Howard and Delaware State. I mean, I enjoyed my MEAC Monday last night, by the way. Morgan actually played pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
Against Norfolk State. So, but unfortunately for Morgan, that result, along with some others last night, basically puts them. It's going to be a hard climb to get into the top half of the league by the end of the regular season. They're probably looking at being the 5 or the 6.
I was just checking. UMass football over the last 5 seasons has won a total of how many games?
Over the last 5 seasons?
Yeah, so that includes that includes the pandemic season. 6 games. Since the start of the 2019
but they've
season.
employed 2 former Maryland coordinators in that span.
That is correct.
As head coaches.
Where is Walt Bell now? Where did he end up after his stint?
That's a good question. I am going to fire up the old Wikipedia machine to figure this one out. He is the offensive coordinator at Western Michigan.
That's exactly where my next guest was going to be. I remember they thought Walt Bell was a star. Like, they thought he was going to be he's still only 39 years old, by the way.
Yeah, there's still plenty of time for him to make a push back and be a head coach again.
Yikes. Not but UMass football, got to have it if you're the MAC. That's going to be the difference in their place among the conferences. All right, Patrick Stevens, at Discourse, D1S Course on Twitter. Always appreciate you, man. Thanks for doing this. We'll talk again next Tuesday. All right.
Awesome. Take care.
It's Patrick Stevens with us every Tuesday here on GCR. UMass. Gotta have it. Like, I don't know why UMass wouldn't be the school that just says, look, basketball is what we're never going to be a football program. Let's maybe do what's best for basketball, which you would assume would be the A-10.
It might be a football program one day.
No.
They bring in
what?
Urban Meyer.
Okay. Could you imagine Urban Meyer being so desperate to coach again? Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Maybe that'll be
all he needs.
That is a rough scene, but the MAC had to have him.
He was the sports person of the year last year. I don't know if you heard.
That's right. I did hear that. All right. Yeah, we're gonna head down to. I assume Scott's still down in Florida, but maybe he's come back home yet. I don't know. I think Scott lives in Florida now.
Does he? He's not still West Coast? I don't know.
I don't know the answer to this question.
I feel like maybe I should know too, and
I have no idea.
I don't know.
But Scott McGregor spent time with the Orioles in Florida as a guest instructor. We will find out what he saw from the Birds, what he thinks of some of their pitchers when we come back in. Speaking of the Birds, the print issue of Press Box is available. All about the hope of spring. You can go get it for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Read it all. PressBoxOnline.com. It is Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover your next favorite beer crafted in the heart of Charm City. At Guilford Hall Brewery, we believe beer should be flavorful and easy to enjoy. Our meticulously crafted lagers and ales are derived from centuries-old European brewing traditions, a staple for both the seasoned beer aficionado or a novice hophead. Experience beer styles that dare to showcase the exceptionality of simplicity. Visit our restaurant and brewery at 1611 Guilford Avenue or view our menu and tap map online at guilfordhall.com. Guilford Hall Brewery, European tradition, Baltimore charm.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now, and on the cover we look at the promise of spring for the Baltimore Orioles as Todd Karpovich and others shine the light on the team's hopes to take the next step towards championship contention and what reinforcements could still be coming. Plus, PressBox personalities offer suggestions to David Rubenstein about stewarding the franchise. Also inside, Bo Smolka on how the Ravens defense could evolve with new coordinator Zach Orr. And we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's programs across the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. You know, you can't, well, I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, Superbook doesn't have lacrosse available. You can bet college baseball on Superbooks. Like, for example, Navy hosts Delaware State today. Navy a minus 290 favorite if you want to bet that game. So get over to Superbook, download the Superbook app. Use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up. You'll receive up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose with Superbook.com, and download the Superbook app. John Harbaugh now, it's his turn on the proverbial lukewarm seat.
Hot seat, yeah.
It's definitely not.
Yeah.
It's not
they're trying to get him.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. He's really excited about the coaches that the Ravens hired. We had a lot of positions to fill.
He likes them?
He likes them. Really excited about them. That's what he's got for you so far. Again, if he has something interesting to say, we'll discuss it. But if I could bet on that at Superbook, I'd heavily bet the no. I'd heavily bet the other side of it. It's also an awkward thing. I didn't bring this up when we were talking about it earlier. It's also awkward at the combine because it's not just local reporters, like it's reporters, from everywhere. So a lot of times some of the questions that end up coming into the combine, like, for example, Miami reporters that are there will probably go ask John Harbaugh about Anthony Weaver. Seattle reporters that are there will come over to John Harbaugh's press conference to get questions in about Mike McDonald. So a lot of the combine press conferences end up almost being dominated by things that are not remotely interesting whatsoever to the home market, right? Like the fans in Baltimore don't care what John Harbaugh has to say about Denard Wilson because he gone. Like what would we care about that he would have to say about Denard Wilson? With all due respect to Denard Wilson, who I like a lot, but just not something that we are going to be interested in necessarily here. So that's part of the equation when it comes to these combine press conferences. I had this from Jeff. Jeff says, Glenn, I hear you mocking the idea of court storming being gone, and I get it. It's not the end of the world, but I would say that it's a more important part of the tradition of college basketball than you think it is. I feel like it's part of the joy that people have, and part of the reason why fans want to go to big games is because they want to be a part of the post-game celebration. They want to experience that moment, whether they're necessarily still students or not. Trust me, look into those crowds, and you'll see a few people that definitely are not college-aged. I'm not saying that it would be the end of the sport if it was done away with, but I think we can all agree that college basketball should do everything they can in order to protect the tradition. No, we can't all agree about that. To say it's not nothing, yeah, I'll give you that. It's not nothing. It's something that people are used to and they've seen before, and so it's cool to them. I mean, it is overwhelmingly students. I think that's different, again, with football. I think in football there are more, like, fans that just kind of sneak onto the field from time to time than there are in basketball. In basketball, it really is overwhelmingly students. And as Patrick just said, so you got to do something else to celebrate. Go hang out on the concourse or something. Like, you'll figure out a way to do this. A designated area that schools would say, hey, we're going to have an official post-game party. A lot of schools have like a gathering area. Let's say that Maryland, they got rid of court storming. Maryland, for example, at the Xfinity Center has an annex that they use for wrestling and for volleyball events. And Maryland they would have the ability to say, we're going to now tell you, if you want to go, we're hosting an official celebration after big games, go there. And students could do that if they wanted to. If you can do it, if you can find a way to do it safely. Again, I'm giving Griffin an awful lot. This is the most run I'm ever going to give Griffin. Probably. Maybe he'll come up with something else. I don't think the 30-second thing is a bad idea.
I want a heater right now.
Well, you got one. Let's not. You got one. We didn't even go as far as
saved court storming.
Heater.
That's what they're saying.
We got to keep getting it out there so other people hear it. I like that idea. And again, if you think you can do it and it can be safe, I'm not opposed to keeping it. I'm not telling you we have to get rid of it. I'm not, Jay Billising this. But, are you going to enforce it? If you set that 30-second clock, are you definitely going to? We all made fun of Jay Billis for his suggestion that you arrest kids yesterday. Well, if you come up with that 30-second clock, in order to make sure that it matters, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to say, you run onto that floor before 30 seconds, you're getting arrested, or else there's no point to the 30-second clock. Are you going to do that? Because if you do, I'm listening, and you can maybe save court storming. Joining us now, just spent some time in Florida with the Birds, working as a guest instructor. He is, of course, an Orioles legend. It's always a pleasure to welcome back into the program Mr. Scotty McGregor, who's back with us now here on GCR. Scott, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up. Thank you for taking the time for us, as always.
Oh, not a problem.
Everything
Glad to talk.
Everything good in your world, Scott? How you feeling?
I'm feeling fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything's going all right. We had a really good time in Florida. Great group to work with, and excited for the year.
I'm actually, you know what? If I don't know if you've tested it anytime recently. At 70 years old, if you were to go to the mound, what do you think the fastest is that you could still hump the ball at this point, Scott?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. I'd be lucky to get to the 70s, I'm sure, maybe the 60s. I don't know, my arm was never a problem. It's the legs and the foundation that's
Yeah,
shaky.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. Hey, when you go down there, Scott, right? And of course, you spent years upon years as a coach after your career was over. Are you there to be a sounding board for guys to come to you? Do you have a formal role during your time, or is it just to be an asset for guys to talk to that have questions and you have a depth of knowledge?
Well, I think it's a combo. I have one role that they use me for, and that's when they're doing their live EPs. I'm in the bullpen with a walkie, organizing where they're going, how much time they got, and so that's fun. They enjoy that. They always say, "Hey, yeah, here he is, the master of the bullpen." I say, "Okay, good." So I do that. But then the rest of the time, I'm watching bullpens and during stretch, and the idle times, striking up conversations. They all are very, very respectful, and it's just really it's really a pleasure to get down there and feel like you're not just someone they just shove off. But no, I get a lot of respect from these guys, and that's cool.
I'll tell you, it means it seems like a small thing, but I think it means a lot to Orioles fans too, Scott. That like you guys are still connected with the team, and we love that. It's a small thing, but like it means the world to us. Let me ask you about a couple of guys, obviously, that you saw when you were down there. You know, everybody is hot and bothered about Corbin Burns. It's been a long time since a pitcher with this cachet has been in Baltimore. Seeing him up close and personal, what stood out to you about Corbin Burns, the pitcher, and maybe even the person?
Well, he was kind of quiet. He didn't, we didn't get any big conversations. I'd say hi, and I would sit behind him and watch him throw a bullpen and say, "This is one big sucker, man. This guy's solid. He's got a great arm. He's got, really nice pitches, and he looks to me like he's just really focused, and that's always a good thing."
And, I think about, Scott, what does having someone like a Corbin Burns do for an entire staff, for an entire team, to know that you've got a dude, that big sucker, you've got that guy that is going every fifth day?
Well, yeah, that's very important. I mean, in the past, they've picked up a few guys that have been those mentors and have actually done pretty well getting out there on the mound, and so, yeah, this guy comes with Cy Young in his pocket, and that's pretty impressive. And I think they're all looking forward to watching him in the day-by-day and see how he handles things.
Is there a mental aspect for a team to say, like, look, just the presence of an ace? Like, we know, hey, man, whatever's going on, we're only a couple days away from having a guy that we know is going to go out there and shove for us.
Well, yeah, I think he's a trendsetter, and the nice thing about it, I hope that Kyle can get back, coming off that ACL bruise. That'd be really nice to have him there, and Johnny Means in there, and then put this guy in. If you've got 5 starters that they've got, with Grayson and Dean and them, the odds are 2 of them are going to be rolling at all times. And that's what it was with us. Back then, Palmer was always rolling, and Planny and I were pretty good, and Dennis, and then Boddicker came. And you always have someone that's going to keep it going. In the past with our guys, they'd be good, but then all of a sudden they'd have like 8 games in a row where they just didn't get it done. And after a while, you just started expecting it to blow up, and so these guys are, looking to get out in front of the cart and go get them.
Scotty McGregor is with us here on GCR after he just spent some time with the Orioles as a guest instructor. Scott, were there guys that you ended up spending a little bit more time with that are having maybe some deeper conversations with while you were down there?
Well, I had some great conversations with Kimbrel.
Yeah.
He's a very pleasant guy, very respectful, very you can, and I mean, he came up to me, and him and Colomay both.
Wow.
They were really cool. Yeah, they were good. They, like I said, I guess the word I use is the respect that they have. They know what we've done because they know what they've had to do, and they were really cool. And even the last day when they announced that it was my last day, a bunch of them kept coming over and saying, "Mac, it was so great to see you, great to have you.
Wow.
Hopefully we'll see up in Baltimore." So, that's I think that's why they bring us back.
That's
Not
cool.
like they're saying, "Hey, thank God you're out of here, buddy."
Grayson obviously is somebody we're so excited about, Scott, and someone that, like, you look at his talent, you believe he's got all of it. How far away do you think he is from being at that level where he can be a truly top of the rotation pitcher in this sport?
Well, I think last year's was really big for the three of them, Kyle and Dean and him, in the playoffs. That's a totally different atmosphere, and it's something that I think it might have taken them aback a little bit, but it was a great learning experience, and I think just that confidence that they should have from what they had last year, that he's it can click so fast, and I think he's right on the doorstep.
And I guess the other, did you happen to see, a lot has been made about Cole Irvin and some of the pitches that he's added, and his velocity was obviously up on Sunday, and it was such a mess for him at the start of last year, and then he tried to settle into the bullpen. Did you notice anything about him and his approach, as he looks like, as you pointed out, unfortunately, the injuries, he's probably going to be back in the rotation to start the season?
Well, he looked great. I talked to him, and he said, "Man, I worked out. I really focused on getting ready for the season and lost some weight, and I saw him throw some bullpens and pitch, and he looked like he did at the end of the season. At the end of the season, he was throwing the ball very well, and it looked to me like he's picked up right from there, maybe ticked up. He's ticked up a little bit. That'll settle down, but because everybody's jacked up
Sure.
right now this time of year. But as long as he's getting his secondary pitches over the way he does, he's a viable option in your rotation.
Is there anyone that maybe we're not talking about as much, outside of that first group, that being down there around him, you were like, man, this guy's got a live arm? Whether it's, a reliever, somebody that you think could be more of a factor than maybe people realize.
Well, Suarez, the lefty, Andy Suarez, was very impressive to me. And Stallings pitched pretty great innings the other day. And he's a little funky, and that's always good, And Johnson, one of the pitchers,
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yeah.
He's got, sitting back there watching bullpens, there was some impressive stuff going at it, and so, once again, Elias has promised to have that pipeline, and he sure is producing it.
Scott McGregor with us here on GCR. Scott, we talked last summer as we were doing our year-long celebration of you guys and the anniversary of the World Series run, and I wonder, because I feel like it was a common theme in talking to all the guys about how much 79 still stood out, and I wonder if and it's not a direct parallel, right, because this team didn't make it to the World Series, and it was just last year, but do you have a feel for what that did for this group of guys, to have such a good season, and then for it to come to such a quick and abrupt, surprising end the way that it did, and how that might fuel them moving forward?
Well, exactly. That was brought up, and I think I talked to Hyder about it, and a number of the coaches and the players, and just saying, guys, 79, we didn't make it. I mean, we were there, but you didn't win your last game, and I said, guys, we had a fire in our belly after that because we wanted to get back. I said, and I'm sure that it's the same way with these guys. They don't forget that.
No doubt, and you hope that it continues to fuel them, and that they almost have an obsession with it, the way that you guys did, because it worked out. It took a couple of years, but it worked out really well for us, obviously. So Scott, what does it look like? What are you up to now? Like, you just like playing golf? Like, what happens now as you head back home?
Well, I'm home, and matter of fact, Thursday I'm driving down meet my son and my two sons and one of my son's grandkids, and we're going to Myrtle Beach to play golf for a few days.
There you go, right? That's the life, man.
We've got a busy summer. We got 10 grandkids, and we get around to see all of them. And they're in Greenville, South Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, and right here with us in Knoxville. And so we've got that. We've got trips going. We got something going like once a month. We're off someplace.
That's pretty great.
I'll be up there for opening day. And matter of fact, I was in the process of trying to buy my tickets for it when we called.
Oh.
And I've got a couple of dream weeks the guy does down in Del Mar,
Sure.
one in September. So we'll be through Baltimore, way over there for those. So, and then in October we go out to St. George, Utah, with a bunch of my old high school buddies, and we go to this thing called the Huntsman Seniors Game, and we put together a softball team, all of the old guys.
Oh, that's cool.
And we meet together out there for a week, and that's a blast. And so, anyway, we'll be busy.
That's
we'll be
cool.
all right.
That is cool. That is great. That sounds like not a bad way to spend some time, Scott. That sounds like a pretty good summer. Scott McGregor, it's always a pleasure, man. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for taking the time for us. Let's talk again real soon, all right?
All right, Glenn.
Scott McGregor with us here on GCR after he was down in Florida. Andrew Suarez was an early round pick of the Giants a couple years ago, and as we keep looking for those, like, I'm not trying to, who can be the next reclamation project. Who's the guy that was an outfielder that the Orioles are using as a pitcher? Who is it? Guzman? Is that who it is? Hang on a second.
That sounds right.
Ronald Guzman. Ronald Guzman was an outfielder. I'm not going to pretend like I know a ton about Ronald Guzman was an outfielder for the Rangers, Yankees, and Giants. And then he was a Ranger. He was only really a Ranger in the bigs. Guess he had a little bit with the Yankees in 2022. And then last year, perhaps due to an injury, the Giants were using him as both a pitcher and an infielder. And then the Orioles gave him a spring training invite as just a pitcher. And, I have no idea if he's good. I couldn't tell you. But it's...
How old is he? Sorry.
Thanks a lot. As you know, I'm a Ronald Guzman expert. They're serious about him because he's wearing number 84. Ronald Guzman is 29 years old. 29 years old. Well, he's clearly not
the bill of this guy
you're
coming out of nowhere.
You're saying the Ravens should use him as an edge rusher? Is that what you're...
He would fit that bill, yeah. How tall is he?
Is that what you think it's supposed to be? Ronald, I have no idea. I couldn't say a word about Ronald Guzman. And maybe in hindsight, I regret not asking Scotty McGregor about him because I just forgot that he was a thing, and I didn't know that we were about to have a conversation about it. I'm all for, we believe there's enough of a special sauce with the Orioles and pitching right now that, why not take on a few more of these, hey, there's something there, but we're not sure what exactly it is. Let's bring him into our system and get him around our data people and our philosophy and see if we can't get something out of it. I'm not trying to tell you that Ronald Guzman or Suarez or anything like that they're going to work, or Wanderson Charles was the one that we were
Stan's
talking
cousin,
about.
yeah.
That's correct. Stan's cousin, Wanderson. It's the Charles family, well known. It's Stan the Fan, Josh, and Wanderson, all doing great things.
Yeah.
But yeah, bring him in. Take a look. There is enough of a reason to think the Orioles have some sort of special sauce. I'm not saying it's worked for everybody, but there's enough of a track record here with getting something out of guys, pitchers, that nobody else was getting something out of, that to say that there's likely going to be one of them that's impactful this year, yeah. They tried, obviously, with Fuji a year ago. It didn't work out, right? Now, maybe it would have been, Fuji might have benefited from spending spring training with the Orioles and spending more time in their system and around it instead of just showing up in the middle of the year and go get him, Cowboy. Like, I don't know. So it can't work with everything, but you can't help but wonder at this point if the outfielder turned pitcher might end up proving to be a thing somehow for the Baltimore Orioles. Speaking of weird numbers, did you see what number? So Pat Spencer, by the way, is going to join us tomorrow, I believe, on GCR. It's a real bummer.
What number is he wearing?
You know what he was wearing?
An NBA number.
An NBA number.
Like 54.
By the way, I didn't think you were allowed to wear this number.
Okay, so 68.
61.
61, okay.
He was wearing 61. I thought you had to be within the 5. I know Dennis Rodman famously wore 91.
Right.
Like, I don't
know the rules.
I don't know the rules anymore.
Because as a kid growing up, you're supposed to have
0 to 5.
Right.
So that a ref could go over and put up your number when you committed a foul. We were doing a game earlier this year at Stevenson where like an opposing team had like a 26 and a 37. I'm like, what is going on here?
Like, it doesn't really matter, but it's like,
but I don't know
rules.
I don't know and it was difficult for me when they got into the game to like watch about fouls. I was like, do they have to do this and like
right? Yeah.
I don't know how that works. Apparently he became just the 3rd player ever to wear the number 61 in basketball history.
Who were the other 2 61s?
I don't.
You don't have that
information.
Okay.
If you could track it down. I remember I saw it over the weekend, and I had never heard of either of the NBA players who have worn 61. Let's see. Both played for the Cincinnati Royals.
Okay, but I found it. Wow, what a list.
Yeah, here we go. Bevo Nordman, Dave Piantek, and Pat Spencer they all joined the crew.
Wow.
So
61.
61 was the number that Pat Spencer wore.
Piantek is from.
Here's the other frustrating part about Pat Spencer. He's apparently not going to be with the team in D.C. tonight.
I saw that Chris Paul is essentially
he's going to Oklahoma City instead with the G League. That's the way a two-way contract works. Is like you can be in either place, and like he's in. Like it's not he made his NBA debut. He's officially an NBA player, but like they're playing in his backyard. He's from Anne Arundel County. It just would have been really nice for him to at least make the trip. At least, even if he's not going to play.
Have him in sweats sitting there.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, before the game, get a little publicity out of it in his hometown, like the whole thing. Probably would have been, I'm going to guess a lot of, like, lacrosse reporters would have descended upon D.C. tonight, and a lot of, maybe the Ed Lee would have gone down there for the Baltimore Sun, but he's in Oklahoma City. By the way, why do some teams – I'll never understand why you would have your G League team in the exact same city as your NBA team plays. I know D.C. does that. Like Oklahoma City does that. Why wouldn't you just pick like a suburb or a nearby city? Like if
the way the minor league baseball.
Yeah.
And you give more exposure to these.
Like, who's choosing in D.C.? Maybe D.C.'s the wrong place because who's choosing to watch the Wizards, right? But, like, who's choosing in Oklahoma City to go to an Oklahoma City Blue game? Like, whereas you would think if they just put them in, like, Tulsa, there's a market there of people that have less to do that probably would say, hey, I'll go to the game in Tulsa. And, like, if they've tried to force a DC-Baltimore thing that just doesn't exist, but if
there was a Baltimore
G League basketball team,
that'd be pretty sick.
It would, and there was talk about that for years. Or if they wanted to do it in Richmond, to go the other way, I would understand that. I just don't. I don't get that. I don't care. So
they need to go to Baltimore.
Okay, sure. I just don't get it. I don't understand why. Because the Philly G League team's in Wilmington, right? In Delaware. Yeah, it's they built an arena for him in Wilmington. They're the Delaware 87ers or something like that.
They are not the Delaware 87ers.
What are they?
You want to guess?
They changed their name. They used to be.
Did they change their name? I don't know if it was a name change.
The Delaware Bluecoats.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, I do remember seeing that. They used to be something else.
They were the 87ers.
Thank you.
From 2013 to 2018.
Thank you. Not an idiot.
The Bluecoats. Why did they change
I don't know. I think that the Suns G League team is in Flagstaff, is in northern Arizona. They're the Northern Arizona Suns. Makes all the sense in the world, right? Like, It's a couple hours away. You're trying to get that market more heavily involved into care. I just don't understand having it in the exact same city. I don't get that. That's a weird bit for a G League team to be in the exact same city as the NBA team. I'm spending way more time on this than anyone ever asked for. I have no idea why I'm so worked up.
Jameer Nelson's the GM of the Blue Coats.
How about that? Who's on the Blue Coats roster currently? Anybody that we'd recognize?
Current roster.
That is the other part of it too. Is that like sometimes you specifically put players on the roster that would be like interesting to that market.
Ricky Council the fourth out of Arkansas.
Yeah,
he was good.
He was a good player.
Yeah. Marcus Bagley, is he related to Marvin Bagley?
I would assume, but I don't know.
Muhammad Aminu from Georgetown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pat McCall. No, not really.
No.
Let's see. Yeah, that's it. Terquavion Smith from NC State. He was pretty good at NC State.
If you say so, I will choose to believe you. I was trying to see who's on the DC Go-Go currently, if there's anybody that I've heard of. Diallo from Kentucky's on that team.
Oh, okay.
Devin Dotson was a nice player. He's on that team. R.J. Hampton from he was the guy that everybody was hot and bothered about, right? Like they thought R.J. Hampton was going to be a star. He was not that. Not the case for R.J. Hampton. But didn't they do like a documentary about him? Like they were so.
R.J. Hampton?
Wasn't he one of the original players?
Kenneth Lofton Jr. is not Kenny Lofton.
I believe it is.
Oh,
yes,
really?
I believe so.
No, he's on the Blue Coats.
Yeah. All right, we're spending way more time on this than we should have. Let's move on. Let's get a tidbit. Tidbit was there anything we needed to cover today? John Harbaugh didn't say anything else, did he?
No, he said something about we need running backs, I think, and we might have already covered that. I think question marks on the O-line. So there's going to be some rebuilding that's going to have to be done there, and we're getting to it already. It's probably the most important thing to do on offense.
So, then the question becomes like...
I think Bateman's going to take a big step. He said that.
Okay.
So they're all pushing Bateman hard.
That doesn't mean anything. So I guess that question becomes... when they say there's going to have to be some rebuilding there, does he know... Is it because he knows there are other changes that are still coming? Right? Like, because right now we know right guard. That's what we know at the moment. I think there's a lot of us that have believed that they would look to upgrade at left guard too. John Simpson, I don't want to be too negative about John Simpson. I thought that I had very little expectations for John Simpson, and he was helpful. He was at times good, but he's also a free agent. So even if they were to bring him back, to be fair, they need two guards at the moment for sure. So they could bring either one of those guys back, but it's a fair way of saying it. That doesn't necessarily. If we can't read further into that and say that's definitely John Harbaugh saying he knows there are more changes coming. Even just having two current holes, two starters who are not on the roster, would be enough to warrant. What was the wording of what he said?
The rebuilding of the O-line.
Yeah. That if that's all it was, that would warrant. So he didn't really learn anything, because that's where you want to try to read in. Like, is he telling you that either Stanley or Moses is gone too?
Right.
And maybe, but you can't infer that based on it, because we already know there's two positions where the starter isn't on the team anymore at the moment. So that's enough. All right. Tidbit is brought to you by brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. And of course, this week, Toyota, big week for getting in on the Pick'em contest over at countysportszone.com. We're into the public school playoffs. The brackets are up. They get underway tonight. And if you think you know high school basketball, go to countysportszone.com, where you can pick the winners and earn points to see where you stand on the leaderboard. Countysportszone.com is presented by your local Toyota dealer.
LeBron James has played in 1,200 straight games, scoring 10 points. That is the longest streak in NBA history, with consecutive games with 10 points scored. And in fact, no one is even close. The next closest is 334 games behind LeBron of this 10-point game streak. You want to try to name the top 5 guys with longest streaks of 10 points scored in a game?
10?
10 points.
But how many guys am I naming?
5.
5. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan is number 2 on the list. 866.
So this, of course, definitively proves
LeBron is
LeBron
better.
greater than.
It does.
Does not.
That's why I did this stat.
It certainly does not. Wilt Chamberlain.
Not Wilt Chamberlain.
This could be anybody. Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant is 5th on the list. 562.
Steph Curry.
Not Steph.
This is so stupid.
There's no
Larry Bird.
No Larry Bird.
Kevin Garnett.
Not Kevin Garnett. Both their names do start with a K, though.
Oh, how about that? Now that is interesting. And Kevin Durant's did as well.
Yeah,
so they're
so
all
3 of the top 5. The 3, 4, and 5 all start with a K.
All start with Ks. Wow. Kevin McHale.
No, not Kevin McHale.
K. It actually made it worse for me.
I know, because now you're like, I can't
have
think of anyone named K.
Right? Like I'm
K.
panicking about Ks. I'm like, well, that's not it. Karl Malone.
Karl Malone is on the list. 4th.
And this is so much more difficult with the K thing. Kawhi?
Not Kawhi. Not an active player. I don't know if that'll help, but
okay, not an active player. I would have guessed that based on the sheer length of the streak, but 2 of them are active. So, starts with a K. Oh, Kareem.
yes,
Kareem.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, LeBron, MJ, Kareem, Karl Malone, and Kevin Durant.
All right, how about
Long
that?
streaks of 10 points.
How about that? I don't know what to make of that. It does say something about longevity, but like it's 10 points. It's not. Let's not oversell that.
No, I mean you were right when I brought it up first. He's the greatest.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Definitively. Very good. Tubular is brought to you by Goose Flights. Goose Flights available all over town. Cans available at all of the Glory Days Grill locations throughout the state of Maryland. Also available at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook in Canton, as well as at Alonzo's on Cold Spring Lane. Cans and Sixers are available at Costas Inn and Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. Sixers and cases available at the Wine Source in Hamden. $1.98 from every can sold goes to benefit the Goose Flights Foundation, the work they're doing to provide non-emergency medical transport for those in need. Delicious Goose Flights lager. Find out more and register to win up to $1,000 in Baltimore sports ticket credit. PressBoxOnline.com/gooseflights. Go there right now. All right, CIAA tournament, full day today. Lots of action at CFG Bank Arena. All games available on ESPN+. Every game in the tournament is on ESPN+, except for the men's championship game is also on ESPNU. I guess it's still available on ESPN+, but also on TV on ESPNU. Today, right now, or about to get underway on the women's side, St. Augustine's and Lincoln, PA at 12:10. Virginia Union and Shaw at 2:20. Johnson S. Smith and Winston-Salem State at 4:30. Men's tonight.
I don't think I can name any of the mascots.
Yeah, we just did this yesterday.
I don't think I can.
Well, you know Bowie State. Bowie State and
Bulldogs.
Bowie State and Livingstone at 6:40. Shaw and Elizabeth City State at 8:50. Also tonight on ESPN Plus, of course, Towson Loyola Lacrosse at 6 o'clock. Big Ten Network Plus, Georgetown and Maryland baseball coming up at 4. No broadcast whatsoever, and why not? For Tigers Orioles today at 1 o'clock. Matt Manning and Grayson Rodriguez. Grayson Rodriguez making his first start of spring, and you can imagine what it might look or
I
sound
can watch
like.
Rakubako's.
Yeah, tweet about it. Big Ten Hoops tonight, Peacock, Wisconsin, Indiana at 7, BTN for Penn State and Iowa at 9. The rest of the college basketball you can find at glennclarkradio.com. Monumental 2, Capitals Red Wings at 7, ESPN Plus and Hulu, Sabres Panthers at 7, Stars Avalanche at 9:30. Monumental for Warriors Wizards at 7, TNT Sixers Celtics 7:30, Rockets Thunder at 10. MLB Network Nationals Astros at 1, the USA Network for WWE NXT tonight at 8. Some non-sports highlights?
I know a bummer for you. A special time actually for the season 1 finale of The Floor on Fox.
They did a floor sketch on Saturday Night Live. That one was very good. That was among the better that they did on Saturday night.
On FX at 10 is the Shogun.
Cleveland's a historical figure? Yes, he was the first black character on Family Guy.
Was he? I guess he was.
I have no idea. It was,
I don't know.
It's great.
Technically true. Shogun. It looks pretty cool. It's like a based on some novel.
It's about John Rollo and his fighting promotion.
It is not. No, unfortunately, not about John Rollo and Shogun fight. Shogun fight. So, but an Englishman like washes ashore feudal Japan during wartime, and it looks pretty epic. If there's nothing else on. So Shogun.
You say so.
It'll be on Hulu afterwards. Then right up this one another it looks perfect for your book club. It's called Pathological.
Ooh.
It is the lies of Joran Vandersloot. I don't know
yeah, he was
he was in Florida.
Yeah,
and he killed like a bunch of women.
And
it was horrible.
Wasn't he the one like there was a prominent disappearance of
was there?
It was a big story for
honestly,
a long
the trailer
time.
made me like really, really uncomfortable. Just like watching how many things he got away with.
Oh, it'll definitely end up in our book club.
Yes, that is on Peacock.
Although we're not doing a show this week, so I can't even talk. I'm going to forget everything from the two that I watched last week. They made me watch Lover, Stalker, Killer.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, they made me watch that one, and then they made me watch
that was weird.
Chowchilla.
What happened to the end of Lover, Stalker, Killer? I don't know.
Just give it away?
I don't feel like watching it.
There was a swerve.
Tell me afterwards.
There was a swerve in Lover, Stalker, Killer that I should have seen coming, but I did not see coming. And it was, I audibly said when it happened, holy S. Like out loud to nobody. Just sitting by myself.
There's no one else in here.
I said,
whoa,
holy S. The swerve in Lover, Stalker, Killer.
Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom is streaming now on Max today.
Okay.
And then Sydney Sweeney is going to be on Fallon. She's hosting SNL this week.
And probably promoting
Madam Web is out. And she's got something else.
Maybe they've given up on promoting Madam Web.
Yeah,
maybe they've.
Something else is out that she was in. What was she in? Or is coming out. That like nun movie, like horror movie.
If you say so.
I thought I saw a trailer with her. I don't know if that's this coming up soon.
All right. Very good.
Yes.
You can find it all at glennclarkradio.com. Thanks today to Patrick Stevens, to Wes Brown, and to Scotty McGregor. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at glennclarkradio.com. Busy day tomorrow. Former big leaguer Will Middlebrooks, who's now both part of the Red Sox broadcast crew. And I already forgot what the name of it. Wake and Rake, I think is the name of his podcast.
Yes, it is.
And he was talking on his podcast about how he thinks the Orioles can be set up to be the next dynasty in baseball. So we'll talk to him about that. Al Hutchinson, the CEO of Visit Baltimore, will join us to talk about the CIAA tournament. Pat Spencer is going to join us on the program tomorrow after he made his NBA debut, which is just so cool. And Drew,
I think Drew's going to stop by.
We have a show tomorrow, so like, if he needed to just call in, we'd be okay if it had to work out that way. All right, thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Mother's North Grill, AJ Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Costa Sin, Superbook Sports, Glory Days Grill, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Towson or Loyola Lacrosse. Duke sucks.